Alright, Friday. Football Tactics and Glory. Really because we've got an update, not so much because it's Friday. I tend to do a quick stream whenever we get an update on the beta. Just to kind of give Creo Team, I guess, some initial feedback, really. I think if I remember correctly, the last time I did this, I'd looked at watched matches, which is a new feature. Give me 1 second. Just had to drink some water there. Yeah, but I'd looked at watched matches, which is a new feature that they added. Really, the idea of this is to give you more immersion in your campaign. So when you're going through the seasons, it's not just about your game. It's also about the games that are going on around you in the world, right? Especially when it comes to like international matches, the tournaments like the World Cup and whatnot. As you're going through the initial seasons, you know, the amateur league, third league and whatnot, and you're building your coach up, you're not going to have an opportunity to play for those bigger teams. You know, the idea was, wouldn't it be cool if we could actually watch those games, even if we can't take part in them directly? For like the World Cup matches, the Club World Cup, the big tournaments, maybe you get knocked out of a tournament or something, and you want to see who the winner is, you actually want to watch those matches. That's a new feature. I know I had some concerns about the information that's given, simply because you would be able to circumvent a lot of the new systems in place. One of the big systems is the idea of scouting. So by default, you won't be able to see all of the information in the world. You'll need to build up your scouting infrastructure. You'll need to hire hiring agents who will actually do the work for you to get information. Sometimes you'll need to spend glory if you want information immediately. So watch matches kind of circumvented that completely. So I think Creo Team made some adjustments. You can see right here, when I click one of the logos, I won't be able to see the formations, which would have given me all of the information on these teams. So for example, if these teams are in my league, and I wanted to learn about them, I could simply just go to the watched game and get all the information that way. Now you're limited. Basically the idea is you're looking at it like a spectator. So you don't have access to the coach view. You're really just looking at it like you're sitting in the stands. So you'll be able to see the matchup history. And then if you go into the match itself, you'll be able to watch the game. And I think that's more balanced. You know, obviously not everyone's gonna like it, but ultimately this is a strategy game as well as a football game. So it's not just about having all of the information available, it's also about learning, you know, getting information through other means, planning with the best deductions that you can make and whatnot. So it makes a whole lot of sense from that perspective. You're still going to need to scout, you're still going to need like your hiring agents and stuff. There's still going to be an incentive to use those features even though we can actually watch the games. I'm also noticing some updates that Creo Team didn't mention. I know that they're working on the new graphics engine, but I'm wondering if this is actually in place now. Because I'm seeing some like some new lighting on the faces, some new shadows that I don't think we had before. You know, there are some shadows on the faces here and whatnot. The faces look a bit more detailed to me at least. I'm gonna see if I can actually view some data here. Maybe I can go to the league and I can go to this team and I can look at this player. Yeah, it does look like they're starting to implement that graphical engine. At least it looks like that to me. Maybe it's just maybe it's always been like this, but I'm starting to notice a little difference. There's a bit more detail there in terms of the faces and yeah, I definitely see it. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Let's look at the watched game, because I know one of the big things was they want you to be able to watch games, but they don't want you to really be able to use that as a way to gain all the information you need. You'll still be able to scout in terms of abilities and stuff. You'll see the way various players actually perform. You'll see them use skills and things like that. And you can do like some impromptu or inadvertent scouting that way. But you see, if I hover over these players, I can't see their information. I can't see their stats, I can't see the level of their abilities. I can only see like the players as if I'm looking at it from a I guess from the bench or on television, right? I don't have the coach perspective. So obviously I'll still be able to see their classes and whatnot. If I go into their team view, I'll still be able to see like the classes and the stats and stuff like that. But I won't be able to see the information itself. So I like that because it does kind of allow you to focus on the match. You know, you don't see the roles or anything. You kind of have to deduce what's going on. So if you want to use this for scouting, now you have to use your knowledge of the game itself, really. I can see he has layoff pass because he just did a layoff pass, so obviously McGovern has layoff pass. For example, if I wanted to actually scout an individual player, I'd look at what they're doing on the field. You know, I'm going to see what he does for the tackle. Obviously, he is a wing midfielder because he did free pressing. Obviously, he has slide tackle because he just slid. You know, all those different things kind of give you the same type of information without spelling it, you know, outright, right? I can also assume that he has solid control because he did keep the ball there, or maybe he doesn't. Of course, he does have slide tackle again, even though I can't see it, because it's based on the action that they take. And I like it. I actually like this because not only does it solve that problem, it also gives you a new perspective when it comes to looking at games. I'm not really looking at it like football tactics and glory at this point. I'm looking at it like I'm watching a football game on TV, right? So like I'll see the various players take their actions and stuff like that. I don't see anything under the hood. It's really just a watch, and it's gonna be really cool for things like the World Cup tournament where you're just kind of watching games. For Creo Team, one thing I did notice is that the substitution pop-up right there just told me what their skills were. Not sure if that's going to be a big deal because that is kind of giving some information away. It's up to you guys if you want to hide those pop-ups as well. Really up to you, but I did notice that. But I do like the whole idea behind this. You kind of look at what's going on, you focus on the match, you're really focusing on it as a spectator. You get to watch the match and see what's going on. And then if you want to approach it like a scout, you can still do that, but it's not going to be as effective as going through the other avenues, right? So they're using abilities. I can see them take the actions, but I don't see the stats come up, which is still pretty good. Yeah, I guess seeing the abilities isn't a huge deal because you can see what they're doing anyway. But I do like the fact that you can still see the actions. Like, he's going to tackle, he's going to move, I can still see all of that stuff, but I can't see any of their numbers in terms of the roles. I can't see any of the stats. Obviously, I can still see the special abilities, which is probably fine, because you're going to see them play out anyway. So maybe when it comes to substituting, it's not a big deal, because you can see the special abilities on the field anyway, so maybe that's fine. Yeah, then certain things are obvious. Long pass, he's going to take a power shot. I can kind of deduce some things like accuracy and whatnot based on how effective they are. If there's one player who's been having a really good season, you know, he's been scoring a lot of goals or something, I can go and watch a couple of matches that he plays in. I can focus specifically on him and I can see how he performs. I can see the types of actions he takes. I can see how often he hits the goalkeeper. You know, I can see whether or not he's holding up the ball on the front line and whether or not he's able to make plays like a playmaker. And I'll still be able to scout in more of a traditional method, you know? Because if you think about real life, these guys don't have like ratings on a sheet when they go to watch these players. Generally, they'll have a checklist of things they're focusing on. They'll have like some publicly available data when it comes to statistics, and then they'll be looking for specific things based on what the team needs, right? So if I'm scouting for a certain team and I have my focus on a specific player who has a lot of potential, I'm going to go to a few matches and get some information by looking at the player, seeing how he performs, and then I'm going to make my own sheet of what I think his ratings might be. And then if I want specific information, I'll use the avenues available to get that information. Maybe I'll go directly to his club and I'll get information that way. Obviously, there will be a cost associated with that. Maybe I'll go to the player's training camp and I'll get information that way. You know, maybe I'll put some more investment in it to get more details on the player. And that's really what this game already simulates when it comes to hiring agents and scouting infrastructure, and even spending glory on match day. All of those things kind of kind of simulate that process of going the extra mile to learn about a specific player that you're really interested in. And then if you're not that interested in him, you'll see him play on match day. And that also kind of resolves the dilemma of having really good players that you're not aware of. Obviously it's going to seem strange that you have high level players, but you can't see the statistics. And then it kind of makes you feel like that the players are unknowns, but you can still kind of see their stats in terms of goals and performance. You can still watch them on match day and see how they perform. You can still look at their cost in terms of the transfer market cost, in terms of the cost it takes to actually even negotiate with them. And then you'll have a bunch of other things you can do. When it comes to like loans, you'll be able to receive loaned players and you'll be able to get information that way. Obviously, getting a loan player is going to depend on an upfront glory cost for that player. There are a bunch of different ways to get information without just providing it to you wholesale. I think the biggest issue with Manager's Journey when it comes to a strategic game, and remember this is a strategic game. If you recall, I think Creo Team actually posted on Twitter that one of their primary influences for this game is Civilization 5. So it is absolutely a strategic game. But when you have all of the information available, that kills a lot of the strategy. So if you think about Manager's Journey, where you have all of the information available, you know exactly where to go for specific players and specific needs. You don't need to worry about getting that information through various means. You don't need to worry about potentially getting a bust player who doesn't fill your requirements. You know exactly where you can go. You can go directly to the club. You can make an offer. There's really no strategy to the game when it comes to the transfer market and Manager's Journey. So I feel like this does a much better job of bringing a strategy into it. It also feels much more like a sports game when it comes to trades and loans and things like that, because you generally don't have that information on hand. You have to go earn it. Even if you think about football in real life, scouts have to go earn it. That's why they're scouts. That's why they're paid. No coach can just go to a team and see a player and say that player has this potential in that area and all of this information just by looking at the player. It doesn't really work like that. They have to invest into learning about the player. So I like the fact that we can still do it here, but we don't just see the numbers pop up and then we can't like take a screenshot and compare and do all those different things. And then when it comes to just watching the game, it's also nice to see it. I mean, if I have a rival in my league, I can actually queue up their matches and see how they're doing. I can see how they perform. I can see whether or not someone's played more than another player, which will impact their stamina for my game. Maybe someone got carded. Maybe someone got injured. All of those things will matter as well. So all of those different things will be important. It's also going to be really interesting when you're in like a position battle. Think about fighting for third place, the top 3 spots. Maybe you're fighting with the team in 4th place. And you're really neck and neck. You're going to be kind of looking at their results, not just the final result. You're also going to be looking at what they're doing in game. You're going to get into those situations where you're really rooting for the other team. You're watching all the actions take place. And you can kind of sit back and just focus on the match. Like, I want Team A to win because I'm in a fight with Team B. Every time Team B makes a good play, I'm going to groan. Every time they fail an important play, I'm going to be really excited about it. It's really cool. Of course, when it comes to like immersion with your campaign, it's not just focused on your team. It's also the entire world now. If you're someone who doesn't even play the game all that often and you only watch your team play, you're going to be able to watch the opponent play too and queue up all those important matches, which is going to be really cool. Yeah, but I do like the idea of making all of that stuff hidden again, because a big part of the strategy when it comes to obtaining players and the transfer market is actually gaining that information as opposed to it being given to you for free. Yeah, so for now, I think I'll be using it just to kind of look at key opponents and key matchups, just to get an idea of what a team might actually use in a game with me. So if you're familiar with this game, you'll know that the AI will actually use tactics based on their formation and their squad. So I'll be able to look at a game and see what formation they use. I'll be able to see what type of successes they're having. And then based on that, I can actually use it to learn about the formation. Even though I can't see it before a match, I can also study up on what they've used before. And I can kind of plan for that. Even though on match day against me, it might not be the same. It will still give me an idea of where the threats are and how I might want to counter it. It'll be like I'm actually scouting out a team before I play them in a match, right? And then if you don't want to do that, you don't have to do that. You can just go the traditional route, which is just sim the match and play the game. If you want to see what the formation is, you can spend the glory or something, and that will give you the information immediately. Or you can just kind of plan for it based on the information you do have, and then make a formation that best I guess is best set up to handle the different potential threats, and then make adjustments during the match on the fly. Yeah, so I think it's going to work hand in hand with all of those various systems already in place, of course. Yeah, with that out of the way, I have to wonder if you guys have actually started implementing the graphical adjustments already. I did see new lighting and like new details on the faces. Like, I've been playing this game for so long that stuff is going to stick out. Like, even the smallest things like that will be kind of it will stand out to me. So I'm just kind of curious about that. Cause you can answer in the Discord the next time we talk. You can let me know whether or not you guys have actually started it. But I know that's going to be like a big effort for this game, is upgrading the graphics engine. And then I think once that's done, it allows them to do a lot of things that they couldn't do with the last game. I know they spoke about potentially adding like female players, like a women's league or a women's team, or like a women's campaign as well. So I think they need to upgrade the graphical model to make that possible too. Or the graphics engine rather. Yeah, but it's funny. I remember when this game was just like polygonal players. And I remember it because it's like these guys had like no details, no features. And the idea was, you'll never see these guys up close, so who cares? But then, they actually implemented the detail, and now you care about the way these guys look, If you have a guy that you're following him throughout a career. Maybe he comes in young. Maybe, you give him like a bit of facial hair or a bit of wrinkles or something as he gets older and stuff like that, and you actually age them out, which is pretty cool. I played other games where they age automatically, but that might be a bit too much to expect. Like, ultimately it is an indie game at the end of the day, and if you're really that invested, you can really do it yourself. But it's cool because you have all these little things where you do get close-ups of the players, and then the detail starts to matter a lot. And then you start to worry about things that you normally wouldn't care about, if it wasn't as detailed as it is. When it comes to things like nationalities, it starts to matter a bit more because different players will have different appearances based on where they're from. Teams from Africa are going to look a lot different from teams from Japan, than teams from Japan, for example. And then you'll see all the little variations. Teams from South Africa will look different than teams from North Africa, in terms of the players and whatnot, just based on the nationalities and the regions and the differences in that sense. But it's cool to see the way it has actually impacted the game on that level. And of course you can see I'm kind of talking over it because everything's just flowing freely. I don't have to worry about challenges or anything. I don't have to worry about like numbers rolled. It basically feels like I'm watching a tournament game on TV right now. Like I'm watching the penalty shootout. I don't know how good these players are. Obviously it's a stressful time. Full time. This team won the penalty shootout. It was a close aggregate and stuff like that. So it's really just looking at it in terms of the game now. Just looking at the way the AI plays. It's also really nice because the AI in this game is really intelligent. I've said it a whole lot, but in terms of tactics games, it is really, really intelligent, especially when you consider all the things that it can do. This isn't a simple game at all. There are a lot of different things that you can do, a lot of things you can plan for, and the AI does a really good job of handling it for the most part. Like, it's never going to be perfect, because ultimately it's a computer. It's going to be limited on some level, but it's really smart. Like, it's really tough to make good AI for a tactics game. Like, I don't make games, but I've played enough tactics games to know this, And it's really hard to make AI that feels fair and is also smart enough to understand the system. It's like a fine balance. You can make it smart enough to understand everything, but then it never makes mistakes. Or you could make it stupid and it makes really silly mistakes. But this hits a nice little balance, especially on the player by player level, because you can kind of see individual players have their own strengths and weaknesses, and then some players will act a different way based on their strengths and weaknesses. According to other players or compared to other players who will act differently, right? That's pretty cool. I think there was an update to this as well, if I'm not mistaken. This screen may have been updated too. Not completely sure. I know they did do some cleaning up, probably some bug fixing as well, right? That's because there's always bug fixes to handle or consider. I do have a dog here with kids, so you're gonna hear stuff in the background. That's just how it is. Now let's see what we got. Yeah, but I think they tweaked this screen a little bit. So there's that. They may have tweaked one of these screens. I'm not sure. It's just some minor cleaning up. The big thing was really hiding the information during the game. So you kind of focus on it as a spectator as opposed to like a scout or a coach, right? Because ultimately we're not coaching these teams, so we shouldn't be able to see what they see on the coach level. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Gonna watch a few other games though. It's not gonna be too long because it's just watching games. And then again, I can still see their formation. That's a 3-2, that's a 5-3, that's a 5-2-3 for this team. That's a 4-3-3 for this team, so I can still see the formations. I can still get information on the different classes. He's obviously a DF or a D because he just made that adjacent block on the shot. Only those classes can make those abilities. You know, he has layoff pass based on his action. He's a CF based on the fact that he just moved forward. He's a fullback just based on the fact that he ran the flank. So you can still get information even though you can't see it, you know, immediately in terms of the numbers and the classes and all that stuff. The information is still there. Like obviously he has slide tackle. He has to have decent passing because he just lobbed it. He has to have solid accuracy because he just took a long shot and got a goal. You know, so you can still infer things, right? You won't always be correct, but you'll be close enough. And then if you want accurate information, then you invest in it, right? You spend the glory, you invest in the scout infrastructure, you invest in the hiring agents to get complete information. Otherwise, it's really just what you can infer. And then that's cool because it also relies on your knowledge as a player, rather. You know, based on your understanding of the game and the different parts of the classes and all of those different things, you can infer more accurate data than someone else. Like obviously that guy who just pressed for free as a CM, you know, he's a CF based on his movement. He has to have decent defense based on the fact that he just won the ball. Either that or he has low control. And then I can also see the names for these players. That's Maxwell, that's Canero, you know. So if I want to track a specific player, I can literally just put my cursor on that player all game and I can see how he acts and what he does. And then I can kind of make inference. I can make judgments and deductions based on that. So it's also going to be interesting because it is a different way to play the game. And like obviously he's a wing forward based on that move. Again, CF, we know that already. Yeah, so you can infer a lot of different things, and depending on how you like to play, this can be interesting. You could be someone who never played the tactical matches, and you can get a lot of youth from this. You can approach it as like a scout, you can approach it as a manager, where you're just kind of handling the strategic side of things, the trades and the transfer market, the formations and the training and all those different things, and you can use this as a complementary scouting system. Not the primary way to gain information, but a nice way to get some a unique perspective that looking at the numbers and the charts wouldn't give you by themselves or by itself. Yeah, so it's interesting. Again, I know a few people are going to want to have all the information possible, but you have to understand that's not how strategy games work. This is a strategy game at the end of the day. It's not a complete, it's not just a Football Manager alternate. It's its own game with its own design philosophy and whatnot. Again, one of the big inspirations of this game is Civilization 5 in particular. You know, another one is Persona. I think it's Persona 3. Kaz, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but it's heavily inspired by like RPGs, JRPGs, and strategy games, as well as Football Manager, obviously. So all of those things matter, all of those things need to be present. You know, in order for it to be a good game, it needs to hit all of those notes just right, which is easier said than done. And if you play a game like Civilization, you never have all the information initially. You know, if I'm settling, I don't know where the iron is until I've researched the necessary technology. You know, I don't know where the uranium is on the map. I don't know whether or not this place is going to have barbarian camps that spawn. You know, I don't know what's in the fog of war until I've actually sent my units over to scout. All of those different things matter, and the same is true here. I don't know what a specific player may or may not have until I've put in the investment to learn about it. And I like that a lot. That's generally how not only strategy games work, but sports games work. To get information about a player. If you're thinking about even like a game where you have drafting and recruiting. For example, I'm playing College Football 25 now, which is an American football game from EA Sports based on the college system. The college system has something called recruiting, where you're getting players from the high school level and you're bringing them into your school or your team. Even then, you don't know exactly what those players will have until you actually invest in them. You have to spend time scouting, you have to spend time doing research, you have to spend time looking at your team's needs, and then you have to use the information that you have available. And even after you've done all the scouting on all those things, you don't know exactly what those players are going to have. Sometimes they might be a bust, which means they're worse than you would expect. Sometimes they might be a gem, which means they're better than you would expect. When you get that information, it impacts how hard you want to go for those players. So, those things matter. In terms of the strategy perspective, those things matter a lot. And again, for a game like this, where you have so much information that you can pick up and so many things that will impact how your team plays and how you'll do as a coach, it is pretty important to be able to parse all of that in a way that allows you to actually get the information you need if you focus on it without being given the information for free. So there's still something to that aspect of the game. Because remember, a lot of people will play this game as a strategy game first and foremost. A lot of people also play it only as a strategy game. So they're not playing the matches, they're not even looking at these screens, really, outside of maybe setting up the formations. So a lot of that information is stuff they won't have or won't have access to. Yeah, so you're still going to have to invest in things like the hiring agents. You'll still need to invest in your scout center. If you're someone who doesn't want to invest in the scout center, you can just focus on the hiring agents. If you don't want to focus on either one of those, then you're kind of, going blind. You're going to have to find other ways to get that information. Maybe you're looking at games and trying to infer the abilities of players based on all that different stuff going on because you won't be able to see the numbers directly, right? Yeah, but I think that's long enough because I'd really just be watching other games, honestly. And I don't really want to play today. I'm going to save that for another time. I might play in my free time. Again, I tend to stream when there's something to share. Obviously I like this game a lot. I've been playing it for... How long has it been, Cause? When was early access? I think 2015. I remember because I had left the Caribbean late in 2015 and I was playing it before I left. It's really cool to see a game have this level of longevity, if I can talk about that really fast. Obviously the guys on Creo Team have worked in the gaming industry, before they made their own company, which is smart, given how volatile the gaming industry is. If you're a gamer at all, that's pretty obvious. It's like me telling you that you'll get wet if you jump in a pool, right? So it is cool to see the longevity this game has had, or this series has had since it's the second game now. It kind of shows that Creo Team has a solid understanding of what their market is. Obviously their market's not football fans in general when it comes to like FIFA and all that stuff. It's a specific niche. And then for them in particular, I think they've actually nailed it because they're not just like an alternate to Football Manager. It's like, obviously they're an alternate to Football Manager, but they have their own unique spin on it. They're also not going after Football Manager specifically. They've played games, they have an understanding of what's fun, they have an understanding of what people want. They have the ability to look back on their experience in the industry and kind of look at how things work. And they kind of put all of that together to keep the game running up to today. Like if you check Steam charts today, I think there's still around like 100 concurrent users, which is crazy because this game is almost 8 years old. And then the second game is getting a lot of interest. I'll get like comments and stuff occasionally, even for a small channel like this. And they'll kind of mention it on the Discord and things like that. Yeah, so keep up the good work, Creo Team. Obviously I'm a fan, which is why I'm doing this at all. I'll continue to tell people about these games. I've been telling them about Football Tactics forever. And this game is just better, and it adds so much. It's really easy to see the additions to this game, even just glancing at it, so it's really cool. But yeah, for everybody else, I'm going to call it here because it really doesn't need to be that long. And I have another type of football game to play this weekend, right? Again, let me know if you have questions. I'll probably answer them as I have time. Again, what's the word? Don't be afraid to ask questions on the Steam forums and the Discord server. Also Reddit. I think Kaz is active all over the place. You know, choose your platform and ask questions, and he'll normally get back to you at some point. And if not him, someone else will. Like there are other fans and stuff that will do it. Anyway, I'm out of here. My dog is telling me to get off the computer. Let go of my hands, guy. I'm getting off. It's okay.